So around this time, a lot of people have some extra money, or they're going to get money, whether or not it's through the holidays or the upcoming tax return season. And maybe you're looking into, these like cool new indie games that are coming out that seem really awesome, and you want to kind of play them, but you don't want to have consoles or anything like that. Which is a great thing, because you don't really have to spend anything more than a console. You can actually spend even less to create a PC that will play any of these, at least the 2-bit ones, at all. So, and right now with YouTube and all these resources given, it's like an awesome time to build a computer. So I can show you incrementally different builds starting from the bottom, like around 200 upwards to even like 800 that can play games. Indie games, at least AAA titles. If you're trying to play like ultra 4K like settings, that's a different story. But so there's a great so let me also just start by saying that this isn't going to be like if you're completely clueless on anything about computers, I'm assuming that you know basic parts of a computer, but to actually how to build one, there's numerous amounts of websites, or not websites, sorry, videos on YouTube that can tell you how to do that. I'll link a video, a good one about how to build a computer based off of the architecture that we're going to do all these builds, because they're all going to be all the same one. But there's this great website you go to, so you open up your web browser and you go to this site. It's called PC Part Picker. I already have it up. It's a cool website. There's like a bunch of stuff on there about like already completed builds. So if you see mine and you think you want to look at more before you drop like $800 something, it's good to do a lot of research before you do this. Okay. I'm also going to say this before we start. I'm not like the most knowledgeable person ever. Actually, I just built my first one, but like I'm really into this, and I think this is like I do this for fun. Like I make builds on this website. It's kind of sad. But yeah, so if you want, they have guides and like completed ones or whatever. But we're gonna go and start a system build. So this is where we're going to be seeing a lot of things, and then on the right side each is like the component that we're going to do. And as I said earlier, I'm assuming that you know what a CPU is, or like a motherboard or something like that. So we're going to start off with like the cheapest one, and I'm just going to do this as we go on. Like I've done like a little bit of research obviously, but this is I'm just going to do this off the bat. I don't have like exact prices or anything like that like set up like on the side for me to talk about. So this is the bare minimum that we're going to start off with. This will play any of these 2D games at 720, and then it'll play them at 1082, but there might be some stuttering involved. So everything that we're going to do in these builds is going to be Intel, and I know a lot of people say that AMD processors at this low point are better, and I believe that that's true for the right now, but I am building something that you're going to be able to build onto, if that makes any sense. Like you can add on to this, because once you start getting towards like anything at 500 plus, like it's better to go Intel. So, and then we're gonna go Skylake is what we're gonna be using, and right here is the Intel Pentium G4400. It's going to be right now currently, and these prices fluctuate, every day. So this is at the current moment. It is what is today? It's the 8th of December. So that's what it is right now. This is going to be a fine processor. It's going to be the best part of the build. It's dual core, in a time period right now where everyone's doing builds that have like a minimum of quad. This will still be fine. You're not going to be able to have like 3 monitors set up to this thing doing like all this crazy stuff and video rendering on it, but if you're just have the video game running, it'll be fine. It kind of sucks this doesn't have like the i3's hyper threading. It doesn't have the hyper threading, which means that it takes like it splits kind of like the core in half, and it kind of acts as if it's like a quad core, but so it doesn't have that feature, which sucks. But with these processors, we can skip this CPU cooler because they have one included, so that's really nice. Now with the motherboard, you have to make sure that it is going to be compatible with this chipset, right, which is LGA 1151. The great part about this website is that if you do, wow, they're all up front. If you do something that's wrong, like I want to give it a good example. Actually, it won't even let you, I think. But if you put in the wrong kind of like something that won't work, it will have like this big thing on compatibility issues. So you know that like when you're done that build and you go to buy it, everything is going to work out. It should. At least we all know everything is not perfect. So we're going like complete cheapest thing that's on the website right now, which is going to be this ASRock motherboard. You know, and then you can like click on it and check to see like how it looks. From the looks of it, yeah, looks perfect. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles of some of these like really super. So if we do the reverse, like these, like I think that these motherboards are stupid, but you know they look kind of cool. So it's not gonna be like that, but it'll be completely fine for everything. And this is what I was talking about, the compatibility check. It'll tell you. So now with memory, I'm sure that you can get, if you know anything like about these parts, the form of memory like DDR. Right now the current modern one is DDR4, and I'm sure you can get like cheaper, like lower ones, but as said, this is you can build onto this, and for not that much more money. So I want to have it so that, yeah, sure, we're gonna do the most modern one, and it's only gonna be 4 gigabytes that we're gonna use. It's gonna be this one. And I know a lot of people, again, with the kind of like dual core thing, it's like, oh, you're only using 4, everyone has 8. Well, you're gonna be able, it's gonna be enough for right now for what we're trying to do, and it'll be fine. It'll be completely fine. You can add on to it too as well. So storage is where it's starting to get a little kind of conflicting with my whole philosophy, in that I don't believe that we should be getting like physical hard drives anymore. I think we should be moving to solid state, which kind of sucks because solid state prices recently have been going back up instead of going down. But we're trying to do the bare minimum, the absolute bare minimum. So 250 would be enough for you to put the operating system on and for you to like install a game and then uninstall it. Like, so you swap games in and out. You can't like, so it's gonna suck, but hey, you're spending the minimum, you know? And you can always add more, but I think this will be fine. You can put the operating system on it, and as I said, like a game or two, and some other like personal files. But you're gonna be very limited in what you can put on there. We're not doing a video card. There is a built-in integrated graphics like unit in the processor, which is not very good at all. But I've seen videos of it for reference. Also, throughout this video, if you do want to reference this, there's like certain videos or keywords that you can put into YouTube where you can see like actual results from all this stuff. So for this, for example, you can go into YouTube and just put in like the name of the CPU, and I believe the integrated, what is it again? Oh, it's right there. It's the 510. So like you can go into like Google and then put like CSGO, you know, or something like that, and there will be like benchmark examples like on it. Like that's the one that we got, and it doesn't have whatchamacallit. So it does completely fine on like low settings, but if you, again, you max it out, try it at 1080. That's with them recording it too, which actually, as far as I remember, is either processor or RAM heavy. Either way, it's obviously going to be a little bit better if you're not recording it, but you can probably do completely fine with these like low-end games at 1080p, like the for indie games that are like 2D, like the whole high bit kind of style of gaming. It'll be completely fine. Now a case, I'm assuming, hey, if we're doing like the bare minimum, that we're just gonna get the cheapest case that's compatible. You have a couple options here. They all look different. again, make sure that this type is the same as the motherboard that we chose. So this is a micro ATX. A micro ATX will fit in a regular mid tower, ATX tower, but you know, the cheapest ones are the micro ATX, and this one got like really high reviews. I'm sure it's gonna be butt ugly, and it is. But you can use something like that, and we'll add it because it's one of the cheapest and it will work. So far we're at 168. Now this is without the operating system, any peripherals, and I'm leaving peripherals out of this because this, like, building a computer is, I'm able to do this like without buying all of this stuff because it's all theoretical, you know, like you can see the numbers and the benchmarks on the website, on the internet, right? Like, so it's kind of like an objective thing that you can talk about versus peripherals where it's like all subjective, and I'm not gonna buy 10,000 keyboards or like mice. No one really does that. Like, I'm not big enough to, you know, to get sponsored to do like reviews on this stuff, so I have no say in what keyboard works best with you. So there are other resources though on YouTube that can tell you all that, and I'll put a link in the description for that one as well. So we're getting to the final thing that we need to get now. For power supplies, it's like this weird part where this whole point of this build is that we're trying to go really cheap, and you really shouldn't go cheap on a power supply because these things can either fry, like the really cheap ones and from non-reputable brands can like fry all of your components, or even worse, they can blow up. Like, there's been situations where they have blown up. So we want to go cheap, but we don't want to go too cheap. And I know that EVGA has the best like cheap power supplies. Now, if you don't know anything about wattages and whatnot, over here, your build will always have an estimated wattage. You should go over that though. Not only just for like making sure you're fine in future like additions to your system, but just also just you know, ease of mind. You know, like you know for a fact that you won't, you know, mess it up. Now you don't want to go overboard. Like, for example, I got a 750 watt power supply and I have a single graphics card in it, which is very stupid. Normally for everything you'll be fine with like 550 watts, but even still, we don't even need to do that. We can go with this this 430 watt power supply. It's completely fine and it's cheap enough. So all this is fine. This is the final build. Again, for an operating system, it's up in the air. You can, if you're in a school, like a college, there's like programs that give you Windows for free. If not, you can go on eBay and get Windows 10 codes. Now, granted, I don't know actually how legitimate that is. It worked for me. I got it for $20. I don't know if any like legality aspects of it. But buying it just straight from them is like $100, and that's like kind of a lot of money. So those are some two options. What else? If you are going to go wireless, you need to get a wireless network adapter, which they're pretty cheap. I honestly highly recommend going wired. Even if you can't run a wire to your computer, like let's say your router's downstairs, I'm blanking on the name of what they are, but I'm looking at mine right now. There's this thing that you can buy that you plug into the wall, and you can put an Ethernet cable into it, and it treats it like you're doing a wired connection. So I'll have a link to that in the description too. And then of course monitor and all the other stuff like peripherals I was talking about, that's going to add up. But just for the computer alone, we have picked up, or we have ended like sub 200. I think that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Oh, and then if anyone's worried about the compatibility check, all it's saying is that the motherboard has, it supports USB 3.0 for a case, and the case doesn't have any USB 3.0 ports on it. That's fine. It's not gonna. The computer's gonna be fine. So as said, this will run any of the 2D like indie games completely fine at 1080. Like really, you don't need to go all out. Like this will be fine. Maybe it's safe to say 720, 1080. Certain ones like Ori and the Blind Forest might do like worse than some of the ones like Hotline Miami or something like that. But this is completely fine. So we start here. And this is where we want to start wondering, okay, what can I add on to this so that I get the most amount of value per dollar? So I think it's really obvious that right now a video card is what like this build really needs. So when this generation of current graphics cards came out, a lot of people. Well, not a lot of people. I'll just say like the NVIDIA cards were just beating out anything AMD was like releasing. But especially like recently, AMD's starting to like become king. So you can. It depends on where you want to start. The RX 460 is a great card that we can throw into this. So we have the cheapest one being $96. I think this should be fine. It's got a good clock rate, and it's got like only 2 reviews, but it's still pretty decent. This will change completely everything. You will be able to, with this card, you will be able to run like even like graphics intensive like 2D games completely fine. The next step will very much so solidify that. But the inclusion of this is really fine. Now, if you know that you want to, so you want to start on this, but you know that you want to get to the point where we're going to end in the video, I would say that you should get the RX 480 and the 8 gig version because like in terms of it is like $50, you know, more expensive, but games are using more and more video RAM, and 4 gigs is kind of already low now. So if you're trying to like kind of, you know, future-proof your build a lot, I would recommend getting that. It is a lot of money. You know, that's more than the whole computer that we just already built. But that will run AAA games completely fine. It's a little overkill for what we're trying to do. So like a good middle ground would be the 470. Again, it depends on like what you want, like with the amount of video RAM. It's an extra $60. I think that's kind of really expensive, and I still think it's overkill for like if you know you're never gonna want to play like AAA games. You know, like you're not really trying to play The Witcher 3. Again, at like 4K and like 144 hertz, like on a monitor, like something ridiculous like that. Like you want to play like Owlboy or something like that at 1080. This is completely fine. So you either have like 3 options with this that I would recommend for anyone that's interested in what's on my channel, and they're all going to be the RX line. And if you're trying to spend the least amount of money, it was the 460, which is around $100. This is a middle ground, the 470, which is about $160, or you can go the high end, which is the 480 at like $280. Your next step is definitely going to be storage, because this 250 gig like hard drive is garbage. I hate like switching over to solid state drives is like night and day. It's so much faster, and it's just so much nicer of an experience that's the next thing that you're gonna want to get. Now the problem with solid state versus like a mechanical hard drive is that you'll see they're expensive as shit, especially like right now. So like you don't need. I feel as if you're not lazy and you know you manage your resources well, you don't need like a super big one. but let's just say you're gonna want to put your operating system in a couple games, like the main games that you're playing, or the main programs even that you're going to be using. 256 is completely fine. This is completely fine, or so either one of these will be good. If you want to pay like an extra, what is this, like $7 for, what is it? Oh, like 19 gigs. So it depends. Let's just throw the 256 in. So with this, you'll have like a decent amount of space, and then you can throw all of your like extra, like if you have movies or something that you don't need on a solid state drive, you can throw it onto this hard drive and it'll be completely fine. So that was an extra $70. So as you see, like, it's starting to jump up, but I think that it's worth it. Like, I really think it's worth it to have this. If not, if you don't think that like load times or anything like that, or even just like booting up your computer, like things like that don't bother you, you can just I'm not going to add it onto the build, but you can just you can just get a 7200 RPM like hard drive, and you should just get a terabyte at that point, because they are dirt cheap. Where is it? Yeah, it's like $50 for a terabyte. I said I wasn't gonna add it. They're cheaper than solid state drive, and it's 4 times the amount of space. Now, the next thing that you are gonna want to add on to definitely is RAM. Now, this RAM is really cheap for these reasons. The performance of it's not going to be as good. Like, the numbers might stay the same, or be the same, but they're not going to be. It's not going to perform as well as high performance RAM, and it's also not going to last as long. So you have 2 options. One, you can either, because the motherboard allows for 2 of these sticks, so you can either get the same one and put it on, or you can just get rid of it and add on more RAM, or better RAM, I should say. So if you just add another one, you should add $20 or $21 onto it, and 8 gigs is completely fine. That's where we're gonna cap off at anyway. But if you want to, you can just scrap this, and then we're gonna go DDR4 and the lowest one. Now this is the RAM I use. Where's the 8 version of it? This G-Skill Aegis? I don't know. It works completely fine for me. I have 2 of these in my computer, but we are definitely not going to need more than that. So we can just add that. That will do a lot in terms of multitasking. That's the next step that I would take after the addition of the video card and the storage. Now, so like as I said, this will help a lot out with multitasking. If you are one of those people that listens to music while you play games, or if you want to pause the game, tab out, and then do some other things, or if you want to, at this point, you can definitely get another monitor. So if you want to have like maybe Netflix or something on the other monitor, this will allow you to do so, definitely. And the it's important that you get the 1 gig stick, because if you do want to upgrade in the future, you can add another one of this onto the slots of your motherboard, which is going to be one of the last things that we're going to upgrade, if at all. So we have all this, right? It's fine. Now we're starting to get diminished returns. Now, if you don't know what that means, that just means that the same amount of money that we've been putting in now is going to stop affecting performance as much. You're going to have to spend more money to get a better performance. We're at $446, which still for this computer is actually like really good. This will run any 2D indie game. This is going to run perfect at 1080. Anything that you throw at it. The 3D games, depending on also your definition of indie, is going to be worse. So like something like No Man's Sky, for example, that's going to run not that great at all. So, and the reason why is your processor. Now, It's also getting into another weird point where it's not so obvious how when we added the video card, that was very obvious. It all depends on what your needs are. So let's just remember, this was $58, right? So you have two options. I'm going to say that the i7s, they're great for, again, like AAA titles or whatnot, or if you're trying to do video editing or anything like that, they're great. But so I'm just going to completely avoid those. They're very expensive. Now you have two options. You can either go with the i3, and there's only one version of the i3 that anyone gets, and that's this one. Now that's double the price of what you're paying for the Pentium. With this, you get that feature I was talking about earlier called hyper-threading. So this makes multitasking a lot better. So we added that RAM, right, that allowed us to be able to do other multitasking functions. This just kind of adds on to it. You're going to get about the same performance, slightly a little bit better in terms of games, but if you're looking to like up your performance in gaming, this is not the route to go. Now, if you want to, we're going to be starting to move up to the i5s. Which you have a couple options. It depends on really how much money you want to drop. So it starts at the 6400. A lot of people say not to get this because for only like a $16 difference, you gain 0.5 gigahertz in the clock speed. And I agree with them. I think that you're already starting to drop like this amount of money. You might as well just drop it for a very big performance increase. So if we add this changes the game for everything. Again, adds on to, so it has the same effect of increasing multitasking. Now, if you are playing games that are more single core based, which a lot of indie games can be, the 3D ones too, or some even like World of Warcraft, for example, it's a AAA title, I would say, that is more single core based. This is actually going to suffer from the i3 because the clock rate is lower. It's actually been shown that the i3 does better in terms of that. But for everything else, I don't think anyone would recommend that you don't get this over that if you have the money. Now, adding that, though, brings our build up to 580, which is still great because this screenshot of the build I like, outside of this case, is great because it allows you to do so much more. You have the freedom to do, this is when you start using the computer and it's just so smooth, and you can load up any game. Like, you know that you can play any game on this. You're not going to be able to max it out, but you can play anything on this. So it makes you feel a whole lot better about kind of getting into the whole PC gaming thing, that you know that you can run everything. But we're not done yet. There's definitely still some things that we can add on to it. And it's starting to get to where things are like subjective, sort of. But I think that no one likes this case, right? Like you look at the case, it's kind of weird. I don't know if the LEDs are like included in it. But it's weird. So, also, again, with the power supply, we're not even close to it, but it's not like the most energy efficient power supply. You can definitely get a better one. This might shit out on you. It's also non-modular, which means that you can't add cables to it. So whatever they give you, that's it. You're kind of screwed. But I feel as if for like who this video is for, that's not an issue. So we'll keep the power supply, but just keep that in your mind that getting a better power supply at this point is definitely a good thing. You're not going to see a performance increase, but you're not going to have to replace it. And then again, with the case, you can get like a nice looking case. For example, I really like the NZXT line. I have an NZXT case. I really like this white one. And it has like an open kind of tray, not tray, what would this be called? Paneling. So you can see all your pretty little, you know, stuff in it. You can also get LED lights, and kind of like, they have like magnetic strips that go along the case. You can YouTube things like that too. If you're more worried, because we're starting to get into the price range where, hey, we can have this look nice. So that is all up to you. We will keep the case dirt cheap though, just because, like, you know, I feel as if a lot of people that are in the market for like indie games, they don't really care about like aesthetic things. So that's that, and that's why I'm not going to add like lighting or anything like that. Also, keep in mind, I actually am not going to look this up on video, but actually I might say right next to it. I don't see it. It might not have fans on it. So, oh, okay. So there are fans on it. It doesn't say it's great. So keep that in mind too. You might need to get case fans. That's why also getting nicer cases is also better, because it's not only just aesthetics, but they will have better fans for you. Now, so where are we at? We are at $580. So a case, the power supply, those are things. Now, if we're talking about performance, the next step, the motherboard again. You notice that that's the only thing that we haven't changed so far, and as I just said again, it doesn't look nice. It doesn't have the bells and whistles of you know, the nicer ones, but it does everything. It'll perform the same as if you throw it onto one of those like really nice ones, you know. So we don't need to mess with this until, you know, maybe if you I see that this, I think, only has one slot for a graphics card. If you want a motherboard that has more ports on it, then yeah. Also, for to reference back to the first build actually that I did, if you are going to be using this motherboard, you also have to realize that with your monitor, it has to be this. So like if you don't, this is a it's not VGA, it was a DVI, because there is no display port on here, there is no HDMI on here. I mean, there are converters, just to let you know, but it might not necessarily be compatible, so keep that in mind. So the last step, I would say, throughout all of these, outside of a case and a power supply, or you can add more storage. You can get rid of this hard drive and you can get more storage. If you get the nice case, you can also get a motherboard that looks nicer. You can get lighting, but I would say the graphics card. So we're stopping at $580, and then I do want to say that this is dollar for dollar the best one you can get for indie games. Throwing AAA titles, like really graphic heavy games like The Witcher 3 out of the window, this is the best one that you can get. This will play any 2D one at 1080 completely fine, like max settings. The 3D ones, something like No Man's Sky, it might not be doing perfect 60 FPS at like the high settings, but it'll play it, and it'll be definitely presentable at 1080. So the last thing that you can say is, because a graphics card goes a long way. So let's go back to that 480, right? We add onto it, and then we add this version. Completely fine. Gigabyte is a very reputable source. It's the 4 gig version actually, so I should have looked at it before I did that. So if you're doing this, you definitely want to get the 8 gig version. It's not even that much more, to be honest, but same brand. Now we're at 660. This will be completely fine. You'll have no issues with anything. Though at this price, so this is perfection for even 3D indie games. This will run everything. It'll be completely fine. You can have another monitor. Now, if you're gonna do that though, if you're trying to run everything at ultra and you want to do other things on like another monitor, maybe you do want to get in like video editing or something like that. The one thing I would do is I would add another stick of RAM. That'll definitely help out a lot. I would also definitely chunk this, throw this out the window. I would throw this out the window regardless because this is really bad. This is like starting from the beginning, and that's what I'm gonna do after this. But before I start talking about that, though, this, with the inclusion of this graphics card, this, and if you don't care about the looks of the fans, or the case, or the fact that if you live in a hot area, this is gonna be hot as shit. This will be the like cheapest thing like that I can find on this website that'll run everything smoothly. Now, if we are getting to this point, there's some like awkward things from this that like the case, for example, or the power supply that I wouldn't necessarily really like. If you're spending the $600, I'm gonna start over again. It's probably gonna be the same things, but it's gonna be $700, and it's just gonna be nicer. I'm assuming, by the way, that it's gonna be like that. So same processor, that's gonna be completely same thing. Again, all of these unclocked. So if there's a K at, I keep pointing at this and it's not gonna, it doesn't work like that. If there's a K at the end of this number on the processor, that means that it's unlocked, which means you can overclock it, which is this whole other thing. We don't have to worry about that. But if you do get that, just be aware that you are going to need a CP cooler. These ones come with one that are completely fine. The motherboard. Now, that other one, as I said, it's completely fine. This one, though, is like unanimously like perfect for the price. It has a lot of ports. It's nice looking. It has HDMI on it. A lot of people use HDMI for their display, you know, especially if you're going to use a TV, because TVs now, like the latency are fine and is fine. Like it's going down, and they're a lot cheaper than monitors. So keep that in mind. So I would use that, and it's not that much more expensive. Memory, again, I would actually go the same thing. If I can find it. And again, RAM's like up in the air. I only choose this because this is what I bought, and it worked fine, and it was cheap. So, you know, it's personal preference. Again, with the motherboard too, there's Asus motherboards that like in the same price range that are fine too. I just know that this is going to be completely fine. Now with storage, again, like I would just throw out that mechanical drive, and so I would choose SSD, and I would just bump it up to like this range, and I would just get this one. This is actually the solid state drive that I use. I use a smaller version, but this is completely fine. So add on to it. It's definitely gonna be actually a little bit more expensive, but it's gonna be so worth it. So whereas I was at the 8 gig version. Again, if you don't care about aesthetics, then with the case it doesn't matter. The fans are gonna suck. So if it's like winter time and it's like super cold in your house, that'd be better. Or if there's a lot of airflow, like if you definitely want it to be off the carpet. So just be careful about it and check your temperatures a lot, because you don't want your shit to be melting off or anything like that. Again, I think this case is beautiful. Now, a power supply, we don't need a higher wattage. That's what we don't need. So like let's just do like 500. Like, you're not going to need anything more than a 500 watt power supply. I think this will be fine. like a 500 watt. It's again, it's still non-modular. I don't care. Like you have to be like a really big tinker in order to care about something like that. It won't affect you. Like really, it could, but it really isn't. But I like this power supply a lot more than anything else. Also, take in mind, I forgot, I should have said this in the beginning, this is not including mail-in rebates. I unchecked that. I hate mail-in rebates because I'm a lazy piece of shit, and it's not like hard to do them. It's just like you end up getting them, and if you're a lazy person like me, you end up not doing them. So I think that this is like the safe route to go. You can save more money by doing mail-in rebates, 100%. Also, if you live near a Micro Center or a Fry's or like an like a computer store like that, they have a lot of great deals, especially on processors. Like for example, I knew when I built my computer that they had the 6600K, the unlocked version of this processor, for the same price. Now they do this for you. They actually lose money on stuff like this. They do it so that you come into the store and you buy other things, which hey, I did. I think that's fine though. I think that works for the consumer and it works for businesses too. I think it's like kind of like a win-win situation. So we are now at 760. So 60. No. So what did we leave the other one at? I think almost this is like 100 more. So this is 100 more, and it's technically the same things minus the storage, which I think actually you lose a little bit of storage, but the speed of all the storage is faster. Your power supply is better. It's not going to shit out on you. It's going to be more efficient. The motherboard opens up the ability for you to use HDMI directly as a display. And the case is nicer, and your temperatures are going to be a whole lot better. I know personally that you don't need to add really anything else because I have the same case pretty much. I have the like black version, the Razer one, and it's the same thing. And it has the same fans in it, and I never have any issues with temperature. Granted, it is the winter, so we'll see in the summer, but even then, like, fans aren't that expensive, so it'll be fine. So this is where I'm gonna leave off at, and I will say, as I said with the last build, because it's the same thing pretty much, though the storage is different though, so I'll talk about that at the end. This will be completely, like, this will do everything you want it to do in terms of indie gaming. You have a quad core processor that is like modern, and it is really fast, so you can play games while doing other things. The motherboard is modern and supports all of these modern components, and it has, you know, for what we're dealing with, it's completely fine. The RAM works really well together with the processor, and it's modern, and it'll allow a lot of multitasking, and you can add another one to this build for another $45, so it'll push it above 800, but it'll work out. And you can get it cheaper when you buy it together, so you can view it like that too. You're all on solid state storage. It's not like a lot of storage, so you're gonna have to be like uninstalling and installing things, but hey, it's a fast drive, so you know, you should have, and I always recommend this for everyone, you should have like an external like thumb drive, or I have an external like 1 terabyte like USB 3.0 drive that I ended up buying. You should always have that, just in general, to back up your shit. So that's something that you can think about getting later on. But if you have like a cloud-based thing, kind of like Steam, that you buy games on, or GOG, which I will talk about actually at the end of this, you'll be completely fine. And it's not like the fastest solid state drive, but if you're used to hard drives, you'll notice a tremendous difference. The video card's a beast, and it'll run any kind of indie game perfect. And it'll run them for a while with the 8 gigs. Again, I did the pointing thing. I meant to point at this. The case is pretty, and it has like feet on it, so if you are going to put it on a carpet, it'll be fine. The fans are fine. They're better than the original case. And then the power supply, while non-modular, it'll do fine. You know, it's bronze, it's not gold, it's not like the greatest power supply in the world, but it should do the job well. And not shit out on you like instantly. So again, this leaves out the peripherals. You know, you can get, like, you can go on Amazon and you can look up like a keyboard and mouse combo, and like the cheapest one will be like $20 free shipping or something like that. You can, you know, talk to Uncle Jim or whatever, who has some like 900p monitor just lying around from way back when regular normal people had desktops and they were they weren't for enthusiasts now. You know, you can do all that, or you can get like a nice, you know, set of like keyboard and mouse and headphones, you know, too, which I really recommend that. Like, you don't just like cheap out on everything and you just spend all of it on the computer. If you have to, take a little bit from your computer and add on to peripherals, because if you're going to be staring at a shitty monitor, then none of this matters. If you're going to be using a shitty keyboard and your hands are just not going to, you know, feel satisfied while using it, or a nice high DPI mouse, or the game just sounds like shit because you're using, you know, like shitty gas station earpods or something like that. So really take that into account when you're doing all this. It's completely worth it. Now, we were talking earlier about games. Everyone knows about Steam. So yeah, you get your computer, right? And you're like, okay, you get Steam. You know, there's like a bunch of games on there, but it's not really like super all intensive about indie games. There's this great website, and this sounds like a paid like advertisement for the website. I have like 3 subscribers at the moment. Like, I'm obviously not sponsored by these people. It's actually what got me into this. And this service is called GOG. I don't know what that stands for. But you go on their website, right? And I really like the look of it. Everything said, they always have these great deals. Like, everyone talks about like Steam deals. I think that these are awesome. And they even have some like, so for example, like 80% off. Like, I've heard a lot about this game too. Actually, I might buy it. Or like The Witcher 3, it's 40% off, you know. You can make your own bundles based off of specific themes that they're you know, having. And it's like kind of like the whole thing that we have set up for like every single thing, where there's like rewards. So you get free games if you pay, like you buy certain amounts, or they'll just hand out free games. It says here, owned for $4, the Neverwinter Nights Diamond whatever. That was free like last week. I got that. I did not pay for that. Or they'll have games like 85% off, like $1.50 for this. There's no DRM on it, so once you have it, they recommend that you don't do this. But like, let's say you want to like play it at a friend's house, you know, you can put it onto the hard drive and just take it over. It's not like Steam, where there's only a specific amount of computers that you can have it on. And they just have like a large catalog. This is actually a game I'm gonna start playing soon. $5, you know. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. Oh wow, Firewatch, great game. If you haven't seen my review on that, you should watch that. And it's right now on sale, 40% off. I think that's great. Dust is a great game too. I played that like probably like 4 years ago, and it's only $3. So I don't like using Steam so much anymore. I like using this website. It's great. Shit, they even have like things that are currently in development up. So, you know, something to keep in mind after you build this computer and you're wondering where to get things. This is a great website too to use. They even have like a Steam-esque kind of like program to use. So yeah, that was my kind of guide. This is probably a very long video, This was my guide on how to incrementally, you know, building a computer, kind of building it up over time, or if you want to just drop all the money, like right then, like how, like this final piece. Again, this is my view on it. There's people out there that have done this, for different, you know, different people's needs. That probably are better, but if you know, if you like someone just to sit here like an everyday guy kind of ramble on about it, you know, this is for you. Also, this is specifically for like indie gaming. Like, for example, this is like probably like where people would start you off at if you wanted to play AAA games. Actually, probably a little less than this, in terms of the graphics card at least. But yeah, I like this build a lot. I think that this will allow you to do anything you want, and it'll even allow you to go into the higher, you know, better looking games. You know, in case you know that there's like a game like The Witcher 3 or something. I'm using it as an example because it's like the most graphic intensive game that I can think of that's like not super optimized. Like I think Doom looked really well, but Doom was really well optimized, and it's also in kind of like a close, like a small area versus like wide area games. So also keep that in mind too. If you like open world indie games, those things take more, and they're definitely more processor heavy. But you know, if you're looking at just like simple 2D games, I'll have a link to these like in increments. I will have like links in the description too. So all of the stuff that I went through in this video, I'll have the links for it. So if you need reference to it or not, or also you can just look at what I'm doing right now and just kind of like, you know, pause it. I hope this helped. You know, the holiday season's coming up a little bit later. You know, we're going to be getting tax returns, which we should be probably saving. But hey, that's not the American way, right? So yeah, use this as a guide. Also, don't just use this as a guide. We live in a great time period where there's multiple resources at our disposal. So watch other people's videos, watch other people's articles. Go onto this website and look at completed builds. You know, I wonder actually if like indie shows up. No, maybe I'm unique. But there, like, look at other guides. You know, look at other builds. Do all that. Do a lot of research. Because this is like a big investment, you know. When I started this, I didn't research enough, and I didn't like think things through, and I ended up having to like buy and return like all of these different things to where I am now. Like I even have on my channel, I have my old, which is already now considered old because it was only 3 weeks ago, but I have my old setup guide, where like I had everything over here and it was on a couch and it was horrible. And then I ended up buying a desk, and I had to find out how to like place my room all perfectly to where I am now, where I think that's I like this setup. I'm going to do another video on that like later on though, after like a couple things I have to do for like my whole room. I'm also moving in like 5 months, so I'll probably actually wait until then. That's a long time from now, but I'll probably wait until then. But anyway, this video is just me rambling, getting way too long. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that was really informative. Again, look at do more research, whatnot, blah, blah, blah. You know that just now. And as always, until next time, thank you.